What's up, guys? It's Eric from Rare Candy, and today we're back with another deck and battle video here on PTCGO. And this one's a little bit different. This is actually our very first expanded video that we have ever done. Simply, most of our stuff has been standard. I think both of us really don't care for expanded. But recently, I actually had the chance to go to Philadelphia Regionals, which was an expanded tournament. So I figured I would cover the deck that I chose to play and give you like a little report about it, in addition to showing off how it works. So. Going into Philadelphia, I had no idea what to play. Trevenant is always kind of like my fallback expanded deck, so I had that built ready to play. But I wanted to play something a little bit more fun if possible, just because even though I am going for my invite this season, I think the field is just so open and expanded. It's really a very difficult tournament to metagame. So I chose to play with something that I thought would be fun for at least 9 rounds, even if I didn't do that well. So I settled on Mega Gardevoir EX. Uh, and this is kind of an odd deck. No one was really talking about this, but probably in the last week or so leading up to regionals, I was just testing a couple different things here and there and played this for fun a couple nights on PTCGO. And I was actually really surprised by how well it was doing. So I sat down, tested with some friends, and this is the list that I settled on. So I ended up going, I believe, 5-3-1 for regionals on day one. You had to go at least 6-2-0 or 6-1-2 to make it. Um, I guess I'm okay with how I did. I didn't get packs or points, so I scrubbed out a little bit. But I really enjoyed playing this deck. It was a lot of fun. So I think if a couple matchups had gone my way, like if I dodged a couple more auto losses, things may have gone differently. I faced against two Primal Groudons during the day, which are definite auto losses for me. Just a couple other weird things went wrong. I got at one game against Dark, I got my whole hand Getsist away. Just weird stuff like that that really set me back. Um, but overall, like I said, I really enjoyed playing this deck, even though I didn't get to face many of its favorable matchups. I still had fun. So I'm gonna quit rambling and let's just get into the list and show you guys how this thing actually works, because it is a lot of fun to play. So the star of the show is going to be Mega Gardevoir EX. That's going to be the one from Steam Siege. It has the attack Despair Ray. So for a Fairy Energy and a colorless, it does 110, and you may discard as many of your bench Pokemon as you like, and each of those does 10 more damage to your opponent's active. So you can, play kind of aggressively on the first turn or so of the game, benching Hoopas and Shaymins and stuff like that, and then you can Despair Ray and discard them all to get rid of them from your bench. So this card has seen a little bit of success in Standard, just because of the popularity of Mega Mewtwo. Since Mega Gardevoir is part Psychic and part Fairy, it does hit Mewtwo's for weakness. That's where it's seen the bulk of its success. And I believe actually in the Liverpool regional that happened the same weekend as Philadelphia, which was Standard, this card or this deck actually did really well, but the Standard version is a lot different than this. But anyway, so why play Mega Gardevoir in Expanded since Mewtwo really isn't that popular? And well, it's really for a couple of key cards. And we're going to get to those, but the big thing is Dimension Valley. And you probably saw that in the title and thumbnail of the video. That's what really makes this card actually something viable. So Mega Gardevoir, though, the Sperry is nice. You really aren't trying to one-shot things. I know a lot of people have tried playing this with Skyfield, but I really don't think that is the right way to go about it. Just because even if you have Skyfield out, you have to discard your entire bench, which will probably include some extra Gardevoirs, in order to take a one-hit knockout on a 180 hit point Pokemon. So I think the correct route is to kind of just try to tank with Gardevoir and try to do 2-hit knockouts. And that is the strategy I've opted for in this deck. So next up we have well, I guess let's talk about the basic Gardevoirs that I chose to use. And they actually are very purposeful in the reasons I chose the counts of each. So here we have two of the Steam Siege Gardevoir EX. The reason that we're choosing a heavier count of this one is for the attack Link Blast. So just 30 plus 70 more if both you and your opponent's active Pokemon have the same amount of energy attached to them. So even though we typically only want one energy at a time on our Megas, this attack can be very good in certain situations. Giratina EX is a big one. If you go against Giratina and you don't want to be locked out of the game by using Mega Gardevoir, you can just do this, attach a Fairy and another Fairy, and if they only have a double Dragon energy on them, you actually knock them out for weakness. But more importantly, I think the matchup this is great for is Seismitoad EX. because Seismitoad EX Quaking Punch attack blocks you from playing item cards, which includes the Spirit Links you need to Mega Evolve. So if you can't get out a Mega Gardevoir in a timely manner, you can actually just Link Blast and 2-hit knockout your opponent's Seismitoad EX. So this attack is great in that matchup. That's why we are definitely favoring this one. But nevertheless, we are still playing one copy of the Gardevoir EX from Steam Siege. I'm sorry, from Primal Clash. And that's for its Life Leap attack. So it does 20 damage and you heal equal to the amount of damage you did to your opponent's active. So the healing isn't too big of a factor, but the reason I like this attack is because let's say we're going up against something like an Yveltal EX, Pokemon with 170 hit points, if they don't have Fighting Fury Belt or something like that. So this 20 damage is actually very big because if you do 20, and then when you evolve into Mega Gardevoir, you can discard, 4 benched Pokemon to knock it out. Instead of having to discard all 5 and not even knock it out. So the 20 damage is very important in certain matchups against decks that have 170 and even 180 hit points. You can discard your whole bench to take a knockout. I don't like doing that, but this damage does make it possible to do that if you really, really need to. So that's why we are favoring this, or I'm not favoring it, but we have chosen to play one of these just in case of those types of matchups. So yeah, Gardevoir is our main attacker. We have a backup attacker I'll get to in a minute, but kind of the main engine of the deck is going to be based around Hoopa EX. Has the ability Scoundrel Ring, so whenever you play Hoopa, you can search your deck for 3 EXs. This is great because we can play down a bunch of Shaymins and discard them with our Mega Gardevoirs. We can grab, Gardevoirs, Megas. We actually play Jirachi EX as well. So Hoopa is just so good. I actually would consider even playing a second one because the games where I didn't have where I had Hoopa Prize, it really did hurt me. So it's such a good card in this deck. So as we mentioned, oops, I accidentally added a Shaymin EX. We're going to take that guy out. Yep. So here we have 2 Shaymin EX for the ability set up. So whenever you bench him, you draw until you have 6 cards. And typically Shaymin is a kind of a liability since it is an easy 2 prizes for your opponent. But again, we're playing Mega Gardevoir, so we can discard these Shaymins after we use them and force our opponent to just take knockouts on our big 210 Megas. And kind of along the same lines, we have one Jirachi EX, great card from the expanded format from Plasma Blast, has the ability Stellar Guidance. So whenever you bench him, you may search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So this is great because we have all sorts of techie supporters and even a lot of one-of item cards. So Jirachi can potentially help us grab a Skyla to get any card out of our deck, basically, or any item card or trainer card. So Jirachi is just good. It lets you pick the supporter you want at the right time. And the late game, if you hold on to this card and don't use it early on, you can potentially just slam it down, grab yourself a Lysander, and take like your last knockout on a Shaymin or something like that. So just such a strong card since you can discard this and reuse it later too. Okay, we are also playing one colorless Hawlucha. This is a card from Steam Siege. Hasn't really seen much play, but I think it does have a place in Gardevoir. So it has the ability Sudden Cyclone. Whenever you play this Pokemon onto your bench, you may have your opponent switch his or her active with one of their benched Pokemon. So the reason we're playing this guy is for a couple matchups. Trevenant is a big one. So the XY Trevenant has the ability lock whenever it's the active Pokemon. So if we do go against Trevenant, we can just bench Hawlucha potentially and get ourselves out of item lock. That way we can play all of our item cards. A couple other matchups it's important against is going to be Primal Groudon EX. That's a big one. Primal Groudon, I hate to say, is kind of an auto loss for this deck. I would say you probably won't run into it much at regionals just because most people don't own tropical beaches. But unfortunately, I hit 2 Primal Groudons at regionals, so Hawlucha is a card that will help you potentially not lose that matchup. Since if they have something like a Robo Substitute active, you can, or even like a Regirock promo, you can play down this Hawlucha and force them to send up maybe like a Groudon that they're working on powering up. Also against Giratina EX, if you have your Mega out and you don't have a way to turn off Giratina's ability that prevents Megas from doing damage to it, you can play down Hawlucha to make them promote something else. So it just has a lot of kind of cute uses. I will say this though, if there was a card I was going to cut, it would be Hawlucha. It probably did the least for me out of everything in the deck. But like I said, it is good in certain matchups. And to be fair, I did not play against any Trevenant decks during regionals, which was a bummer because I think this deck actually fares pretty decently against Trevenant. So it definitely is a fringe card, but definitely cute in a lot of situations. Playing 2 Exeggcute. This is going to be another really important card actually. So Exeggcute has this awesome ability, Propagation. Once during your turn before you attack, if this Pokemon's in your discard pile, you may put it into your hand. So this is great because we can basically Ultra Ball for free anytime this card is in our discard. We can get 2 Exeggcutes back into our hand, discard them with Ultra Balls or computer searches, without having to discard extra resources. But also too, we can get these guys back into our hand, play them on our bench to do extra damage with Gardevoir. So we're guaranteed essentially 130 damage every turn with Mega Gardevoir, which is great. That knocks out Baby Yveltals, Xerneas, Baby Volcanion, just Greninjas. So it really helps being able to have that extra damage, especially if we, let's say, like the example earlier, we do 20 damage with Life Leap to an Yveltal EX. Well, we need to discard 4 Pokemon on our next turn to knock it out with our Mega, and having the 2 free Exeggcutes in our discard helps make that easier to do. So this is such an important card in this deck. Expanded really helps this deck out a lot, I think, because of this card. And the only other Pokemon we're going to be playing is one Dedenne. This is such a random inclusion, but I've got to say Dedenne might be my MVP out of all of the random techie cards in this list. So its first attack and trainment lets you search for 2 basics, but really the attack we're looking at is Energy Short. This attack is 20 damage times the number of energy on your opponent's active Pokemon. And this is so important for several reasons. So the first obvious matchup this is good for is against the Yveltal EX. So one thing that's great about Mega Gardevoir, it's a 1 energy attacker since we play Dimension Valley. And for Dark, which is probably the most popular deck you will see in Expanded, they have to commit so much energy to take a 1-hit knockout on a Mega Gardevoir. And I actually got to use this at Regionals. I was playing against an opponent who had Dark. He loaded, I think it was like 3 DCEs and 3 Darks onto his Yveltal EX in order to knock me out. And so if they do this, it's really hard to actually combat against that. So that's why we play Dedenne. So if they do manage to get all this energy, they take a knockout on Gardevoir. Well, guess what? You play down Dedenne, and just for 1 energy, you can knock out an Yveltal EX. So you bait them into overcommitting all this energy to knock you out, and then you punish them with Dedenne for it. It's also good against Primal Groudon EX. That's another matchup I keep talking about that this deck struggles against. So you really need to force Groudon into a 7-prize game. So they probably will knock out 2 Mega Gardevoirs. You promote a Dedenne to hit them for 80 damage, since they typically have 4 energies on them. And then you finish it off with another Mega Gardevoir, which forces them to take 7 prizes as opposed to 6. So it's good against that. And the last very important matchup is going to be Mega Rayquaza. So Mega Rayquaza can knock out your Mega Gardevoirs fairly easily, whereas you have to 2-shot their Megas. So the prize exchange is not that good. And we do have another way to deal with Mega Rayquaza in this list as well. But Dedenne can actually hit Mega Rayquaza for 120 damage, since they typically have 3 energies on them. Hits for 60, times 2 for weakness, so 120. So you do that to soften up a Mega Ray or finish it off, actually, too. So Dedenne is just so key in several matches. Like I said, definitely my MVP of the entire regionals. I took so many weird, stupid knockouts with this thing. It was ridiculous. So yeah, guys, that's going to be the Pokemon. Lots of weird things going on there. And for our trainer cards, we have, let's see, I'll start with our supporters. We have 2 Professor Sycamores. Pretty straightforward. Discard your hand, draw 7. 2 N, each player shuffles in, draws equal to the amount of prize cards they have left. Just a nice solid form of shuffle draw. Chorus, this is actually one of my favorite cards in the deck. So shuffle your hand into your deck and draw equal to the amount of bench Pokemon both players have in play. So this is great. We have a lot of bench Pokemon, especially on the first turn or so of the game. But what's actually really cool with this is our executes that we have. So let's say we want to play colors. Well, let's get those executes out of our discard pile, bench them to draw extra cards with Colress, and then just discard them again at the end of our turn when we attack. So lots of synergy with the executes that we play. Such a good card in this deck, I think. One Skyla. Typically, Skyla is a card I actually hate to play unless your deck has a lot of alternate forms of draw power, which we do. So what I mean by that is we can Skyla for, let's say, like a Spirit Link or even like a Ultra Ball or something, but then we can still draw a lot of cards other ways with our Shaman EXs and Hoopas. So that's why, even though Skyla doesn't offer a great form of draw power, we have other ways to actually still draw cards for the turn. But really, the main usage I like for Skyla is grabbing a Battle Compressor on the first turn of the game. So we can grab Battle Compressor to discard our executes and maybe some kind of techie supporters as well. Put them in the discard pile because we will need to use eggs a lot throughout the course of a match. But it's also good because we run max potions in this list, and there's a lot of times where you're missing just one key component of a combo for an opponent. So you might have, let's say, a damaged Mega Gardevoir with a Dimension Valley out, and all you need is a max potion to heal it and attach to keep on attacking. Or let's say you have the max potion, but you need your Dimension Valley out. Again, Skyla just helps complete these little combos that you might need throughout the course of the game. Okay, so we're also playing one Hex Maniac, shuts off abilities until the end of each player's turn. Until the end of your opponent's next turn. So this is good against several decks. Greninja is a big one. Just in general, I like these decks that have alternate forms of draw power, where you can draw through a lot of your deck on the first turn and then end your turn by using Hex Maniac. So this is great against several decks. Mega Rayquaza in particular, if you go first and can set up and then Hex at the end of your turn, it will really allow you a better chance of winning that matchup. Giratina EX is another thing too, because it is immune from Mega, so we need a way to shut off his ability. So kind of just a standard card to include. Two Lysander, so switch your opponent's bench Pokemon with one of his or her active, pretty standard, straightforward. One Karen, this is actually, I think, another important card. Each player shuffles all of their Pokemon in their discard back into their deck. So with Mega Gardevoir, we're constantly discarding Pokemon from our bench, and if we play Karen at some point in the game, we can get all of those Pokemon back to keep reusing. So if we still have Ultra Balls, like an Ultra Ball in our hand, we can Karen, shuffle all of our Pokemon back into our deck, and then Ultra Ball for a Hoopa and just start going to town and setting up our board again. But it's also great against Vespiquen variants and Night March. You single-handedly win the Night March matchup with this card, since they are relying on Pokemon being in their own discard pile. So a lot of decks, I think, are tempted to play Karen just because they are afraid of Night March, but luckily Mega Gardevoir benefits from this card even if you don't play against Night March. So it's a great card just for this deck in general, but again, it also auto-wins a couple of these matchups, like Flareon decks, Vespiquen decks, and Night March. And the last support that we're going to run is one Pokemon Ranger. So this is good mainly against Seismitoad EX. So if they use Quaking Punch to prevent you from playing item cards, you can play Pokemon Ranger to remove those effects. But it's also good against other things too. If you have to play against a Regice or a Glaceon, that would prevent you from doing damage to them. So Pokemon Ranger, it's the card, honestly, I don't really like in Standard, but I think there's enough different uses in Expanded to warrant playing it. I did only use it once out of the course of a 9-round tournament, so you could still argue for cutting it, but I also didn't play against any Seismitoad decks the entire tournament, so yeah, my matchups were definitely not what I expected them to be. So maybe if I played against more traditional popular decks that were set to appear, it would have been more useful. But nevertheless, I think it's a decent card in Expanded. So moving on to our trainer cards, Forward versus Seeker, item cards, just to reuse all these supporters we're talking about. For Ultra Ball Standard, discard 2 cards from your hand, search your deck for a Pokemon, and like I said, we have Execute, so we can discard 2 Executes every time we want to play this card and get basically a free Pokemon, which is great. For Trainer's Mail, just a standard consistency booster card. One Tool Scrapper, this is A form of tool removal that we don't have in standard, unfortunately, but it's great for a couple reasons. You choose up to 2 tool cards in play and discard them. So why play this over startling Megaphone? And the big reason is going to be Headringer. In Expanded, you do have to worry about people playing Headringer onto your own Pokemon to make them do to have higher attack costs. So this actually was great. I played against a Mega Manectric deck that ran Headringer. I was able to use Tool Scrapper to get rid of that, but it's also good against things like Garbodor. If they have a tool card attached to it, it prevents it. It prevents both players from using abilities. So we can Tool Scrapper Garbodor. That way we can freely use our Exeggcutes and things of that nature too. So I'm playing a split of 1 Escape Rope and 1 Switch, and a lot of people opt to play Floatstone, but typically in this deck we are going to be discarding our bench Pokemon, so I don't think Floatstone is that great, honestly, in this deck. Unless, of course, you're going to play Keldeo, which it was a card that I almost did run. But anyways, we're playing Switch. Switch, you're active with one of your bench Pokemon. And Escape Rope's the same thing, but it forces your opponent to also switch their active Pokemon. So I like that split. Again, if you're going to play Keldeo, you could warrant the inclusion of Floatstones. But I really did like the just standard switching cards, and also it's great against Fright Knight Yveltal, which was very popular at the tournament. So, which does deactivate your Floatstones otherwise. So one Super Rod, just a form of recovery. Shuffle some Pokemon or basic energy back into your deck. We don't play much basic energy, so that's why I opted for this over Sacred Ash. 3 Max Potion, another crucial card in this deck. So since we play Dimension Valley, we only attack for 1 Fairy energy. So typically Mega Gardevoir will take a hit. Unless it's like Mega Rayquaza or some sort of metal deck, we are going to survive at least 1 hit in most cases. So let's say Mega Manectric, for example, they hit you for 110 damage. Well, guess what? You just Max Potion off all the damage, attach 1 energy from hand, and just keep doing damage. So it's very powerful. Gardevoir is very tanky. So the fact that you're discarding all of these easy bench sitter targets and can take at least 2 hits thanks to Max Potion really forces your opponent to either knock you out in 1 hit, or it can be kind of a difficult prize trade for them. So Max Potion is just so strong in this type of deck. 1 Computer Search, discard 2 cards from your hand, search your deck for any card. Pretty obvious why that's powerful. And like I said, thanks to Exeggcute, we can play this card for free. 1 Battle Compressor, search your deck for up to 3 cards and discard them. So we're only playing 1 of this card, but it's definitely very good. We play a ton of different like 1-of supporters and techie supporters, so we can put those in the discard pile. We can put Exeggcutes in the discard pile. That's probably most important. But if we play against things like Night March, or even Primal Groudon, for example, we can discard some other cards we don't need. So if we play against Night March, we can discard our Dimension Valleys. If we play against Primal Groudon, we can get rid of Max Potion. Since Primal Groudon is going to knock us out in 1 hit almost all the time. So Battle Compressor, just a nice little 1-of. I also play 3 Gardevoir Spirit Link, just pretty self-explanatory, just so our turn doesn't end when we Mega Evolve. And just to round out our trainer cards, we're playing a split stadium line. We're playing 3 Dimension Valley. So each player's Psychic Pokemon's attacks cost 1 less. So this is great because Mega Gardevoir is part Psychic type. So we can abuse this and attack for 1 energy. So definitely good for that reason. I would like a 4th one, but cuts had to be made here or there to kind of better prep this deck for some bad matchups. And I did cut 1 in favor of 1 Parallel City. So it's one of these cool dual effect cards. It has a different effect depending on which way you face it. So if whoever has the blue side facing towards them, they can only have 3 bench Pokemon, and whoever has the red side facing them, it makes their Fire, Water, and Grass attacks do 20 less. So you can face the blue side towards you can face the red side towards Greninja, make them do less damage to you. Or it's kind of cool, you can put the blue side towards them, and they can only water duplicates for like 2 Frogadiers, which is nice. But really the most important matchups this is for is going to be Mega Rayquaza. That's your biggest one that Parallel City really helps you out with. Because they can easily 1-hit knock you out. But if you Parallel City at the right time, between this and the Denna, you actually have a decent chance of beating it. So I thought that was going to be an auto loss, and I felt like Mega Rayquaza was going to be at regionals, so I needed to have a way to actually deal with it. And in my testing, I was able to actually take down Mega Ray with this and Dedenne. So Peril City really helps you out. And it's just such a great card in so many different matchups. It's really hurtful to have only 3 bench Pokemon for your opponent, especially on the first turn of the game too. And they have like a Hoopa or something, they might not be able to abuse it as much as possible. So it's just such a strong card in a variety of matchups, and it really tips the Mega Ray match more in your favor than it normally is. And to round out the list, guys, just 7 Fairy Energy. It's really all you need. I wouldn't go lower than this, though, just because it starts to be difficult to draw into them. But you're only a 1 energy attacker, so it's not a big deal most of the time. Yeah, guys, that's going to be the list. I know that was a little bit long-winded, but we do have a ton of one-ofs that needed explanation in this deck. But I'm going to switch it over to the battle video. But I really hope you enjoy this, guys. A lot of fun to play, and so let's go check it out and see how it actually looks in action. All right, guys, we got ourselves a game. Just going to call the coin flip, which our opponent missed calls, so that means we get to go first, which is always fun. Especially in this deck, since we can't attack on turn 1, it's really good to go first, just to get that extra turn to maybe get an energy attachment and get some Spirit Links on the field. Okay, so just going to take a mulligan here, and okay, cool. We actually have a really nice start. We have Battle Compressor, so that means we will be able to compress away some eggs and maybe a supporter potentially too. Okay, so it looks like we're going to get some sort of water toolbox deck. If I just had to guess here, it's probably not Vileplume if they're playing Octillery. So the Manaphy must mean that it is a toolbox deck. And unfortunately, Hoopa is prized. That's actually really big. Hoopa is a really key component of this deck. But nevertheless, we still have a really nice hand to work with here. And depending on what to throw in the discard, maybe a Sycamore. Looks like I'm second guessing it here. I'm just going to go for an N. Just in case we hit one off this Trainer's or Versus Seeker, we rather N than Sycamore. Okay, so here, yep. We don't want to Sycamore away this Spirit Link and Mega potentially. So here we'll put down our Spirit Link. Attach a water energy, or I'm sorry, a Fairy Energy, and we're going to propagate these eggs back into our hand. That way we can Ultra Ball them away for free, not have to discard any of our own resources. And we can get out probably another Gardevoir or a Shaman, but here I kind of just like getting out Gardevoir. We have a decent hand ready to go for next turn. And so, yeah, may as well just save the Dimension Valley, no point in playing it down. So what does our opponent do? I'm really curious to see what attackers are going to come down. So here our opponent is going to Lysander us, slightly annoying, and they play Starling Megaphone. Ugh. So maybe we should have actually held on to the Spirit Link in hindsight. In Standard, not gonna lie, I'm pretty used to just putting on Spirit Links without any worry about, you know, what might happen to them. But here our opponent didn't really do anything, so we're just going to take the turn to Mega Evolve. That way we can just you know, get that guy out instead of ending our opponent into a fresh hand. But here our opponent is going to be able to get Octillery out to bail themselves out of this dead hand. Octillery has the ability, Abyssal Hand, to let them draw until they have 5 cards in hand. So here they actually have a Water Energy and a Muscle Band on this Manaphy. So it's making me think they're going to go aggro Manaphy, which I'm okay with just because we can knock it out in one hit. And we do see Regice hit the board. That is really scary for us since we don't really run any alternate attackers other than Dedenne, but that's our only non-EX attacker in this deck. But here it looks like our opponent's actually favoring the Keldeo, which I gotta say I am okay with. It's going to take a lot of energy for this Keldeo to knock us out. In worst case scenario, we can actually attack with the Dedenne to soften it up if they do decide to commit a lot of energy to Keldeo. And it looks like they play Blastoise as well, so I'm not sure if they play the Mega in here too. But here we'll throw down our own Dimension Valley to bump their Stadium, and we're just going to see an N here. It is unfortunate we have to bail out our opponent, but they have Octillery anyway, so I don't think it makes much of a difference. Trainer's Mail. Not sure. We might just fail it, so that way we can draw more cards with Shaman. Maybe we can get another Spirit Link and Mega. So not really too much to work with. We can put down the Spirit Links. So our opponent already played their Starling Megaphone. So here, we're just going to do 120 this Blastoise. And if I had to guess, we'll probably see a Secret Sword this turn. And does our opponent hit the Max Elixir? And yes, they do. So that means Keldeo. Oh my god! So our opponent plays 2 Starling Megaphone. What is this? Okay. The first time may have been a misplay on my part. The second time, that's just no one plays 2 Megaphone. Like, what in the world? But anyways, we still have a Keldeo, and we have this Max Potion in hand anyway, so I think we'll be okay here. So we have 2 Max Potions we can work with, so let's go ahead and heal. And we can actually use Jirachi to search for a Chorus and try to draw ourselves into another Fairy Energy. I definitely think that is the play here, because we can also use Propagation to get these Exeggcutes out of our discard pile and fill up our bench even more here. And this game is taking forever to load. I think my internet was kind of bad right here. I was having some connection problems. So here I'm like, do I quit the game? But here it looks like we did draw into the Chorus, so no need to go find a new game. So here we're going to use Propagation, get those eggs out of our discard pile, and this kind of shows how cool this Gardevoir deck is. We can bench all these eggs and Jirachis, and then we can just discard them at the end of the turn since we don't need them anymore. So nice, we will be able to get down a Fairy Energy, and we have Computer Search. We could potentially Computer Search and Ultra Ball for another Mega and Spirit Link, but I'd rather save it for a Max Potion, since this Keldeo is probably going to attack into us again, potentially. So let's see. I mean, they might be able to power up this Blastoise that they have on the bench. But here, yeah, we're just going to see a Secret Sword for 140, and we do have the Computer Search, so we can definitely heal off this this Gardevoir. And here we can use Propagation, but I really want to get some of these extra supporters in the discard pile, mainly that Pokemon Ranger. That way we can easily reverse a Secret out if we need to at some point. So we're going to go Max Potion, heal off Gardevoir, and we can attach the Fairy Energy to keep on doing damage with the Spare to knock out this Keldeo. So we're doing we versus Seeker, and what do we get? What do we get? I'm just debating. Oh, I think I know what happened here. I was going to Hex Maniac, our opponent, but I thought Ranger was Hex for some reason. So I was like, oh wait, I don't want to get Ranger, so what do we do here? So I just grab a Chorus, that way we can use that for next turn, or even this turn, it doesn't matter, I guess. Looks like I'm just debating what I would do. And I decided against using the Chorus. I think I might be doing that in anticipation of maybe like a Regice getting powered up. That way we can use Hawlucha to get it out of the active spot. Not sure what my thought process was right there. Definitely should have Chorus in hindsight, I believe. And yeah, our opponent thinks the same thing. So they're going to use Chorus, get 5 cards. And here Blastoise is actually going to attack us, and it forces us to switch out, which is really annoying. But luckily we have an Escape Rope. That's like a really good top deck. So that's cool, and we can probably get our eggs back onto the bench and use Chorus to get a fresh new hand. Hopefully start powering up another Mega Gardevoir. Even though this one is pretty much going the distance here, it looks like. And going to attach energy to that one. Just in case our Dimension Valley gets bumped, we will have another Mega powered up no matter what. And we actually hit the Spirit Link, and we have Mega in hand, so that works out really nicely for us. And so we have a lot going on. We have Max Potion ready for next turn and the Fairy Energy. So as long as our opponent doesn't get rid of our Stadium, we'll actually be in a really good spot. Okay, we finally dig that Hoopa out of the prizes. Not too important at this point. So what's our opponent do? They really need to power up this Regice. I'm really surprised they've been going the route of attacking with Blastoise and Keldeo, since Regice does just kind of beat us if we can't Pokemon Ranger every turn. But here our opponent just looks like they just passed to us. So here we can just win if we can manage to get a Lysander, and I think we have a Shaman still in the deck. So here, yeah, we do have Shaman. And what do we do? Okay, so we can play down our hand a good bit here, actually, to try to dig for Lysander or just win on this turn. So here we'll max potion. I know it's only 30 damage, but may as well heal it to play down the card. We can attach another fairy energy to it. Bench the Dedenne, probably Ultra Ball away the D Valley and Mega. Get Halucha out. Let's see. Well, force our opponent to switch. They're probably smart enough not to promote Mana Fee, but nevertheless, we do want to play it down anyways, just to thin our deck and increase our chances of drawing Lysander. Cool, and do we hit it? Yes, we actually hit 2 Lysanders. That means we can Lysander up this Mana Fee for the game and use Despair Ray. We're just going to go ahead and discard our whole bench just to add a little extra insult to injury to take our last 2 prizes. So yeah, guys, there you go. That is going to be our Mega Gardevoir deck that we're trying out here. Deck is actually a lot of fun to play. Like I said, that's a big reason I did decide to play it at Regionals. Even though I hit a couple of funky matchups there and didn't do as well as I would have liked, like I said, it's still a lot of fun to play this deck. But yeah, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. As usual, feel free to like and subscribe, and don't forget to check out our merch over at rarecandytcg.com. If you can pick up a shirt or playmat to help support the channel, it would mean a lot to us. But with that, I appreciate you watching, and we will see you for the next one.